Welcome to another episode of the Soothing Semantics podcast. Rafi Pinsky is your host today and always. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, leave your comments. For all of your South Florida real estate needs, make sure to follow me at Rafi the Realtor. Check out the link in bio to sign up to my weekly newsletter to stay in the know of everything going on in the South Florida market. So I'd love to get in touch with you. Without further ado, we have the attorney, the Suri Yahudi, the
Salamu alaikum, habibi. How you doing?
aywa alek. How are you, brother?
Thank God, thank God.
So he is not only a fierce Jewish advocate, he has a very loud voice, doesn't need a megaphone. If you ever have seen his videos in Manhattan, he wakes up a few blocks of the neighborhood. We have the Hebrew Hamra himself.
Salamu alaikum. How you doing, brother? What's
AB
going
Hamra.
on?
So I'm doing great, bro. I'm in Miami. It's nice and warm here.
I'm jealous of you. I want to be in Miami as well, but not everybody has the privilege, to live in Miami.
Hey man, listen, I
We
made the
we
choice five
still need
years
a
ago.
grind up here in New York.
No, I do too, bro. I do too. But thank God, I mean there's enough opportunity here too, you know? I'm not
No,
I'm
I
not
know. I'm just
retired.
busting balls. Yeah.
I'm not retired by any means. I still have the
Yeah,
New
but
York
don't you want to
yeah.
retire? Like if I lived in Miami and I walked outside and I thought there was a beach a couple blocks away, there's no way I'm going to work. That's like the biggest challenge.
It's a little yeah, I mean, I'm funny enough, I'm not such a beach dude. I love the beach. I just don't really go much.
Okay. All right.
So, but yeah, you definitely have that crew of people, but it's usually the generational wealth crew. They don't really have to do too much work. You have some of
Yeah,
those.
that's what I'm trying to move to Miami into generational wealth. But unfortunately, I don't have any of that. So I
It's
need to
okay.
figure that out for my kids.
I came across your page, funny enough, of you doing what you do a lot, which is yelling.
Happens. It's just me speaking, by the way.
It's good.
I don't
No, no,
think
no, it's
anybody
great.
has heard my yelling yet. That's the
Okay.
scary part. But we'll
Okay.
keep that private so people don't get too scared away from
No, we'll keep that to between when
me.
you're yelling at your kids. But anyway, I I I have the privilege of having you on, man. It's really a pleasure. And I came across your page initially. You were fired up about what was going on right after October 7th. And
Yeah,
you've really grown tremendously since then. Your page has really grown. You've become quite a big name. A lot of the people I know who you are. And you've
it's
built quite a
crazy.
yeah, you've built quite a following and you've become one of the prominent, for sure, one of the prominent Mizrahi figures in the pro-Israel space, but now in the Jewish world, you've become a very popular name. And I want to get into what you were doing prior to all this. I know you're a lawyer, you're an attorney, but what was life like beforehand? Briefly.
So all this is accidental, right? I never planned on opening a page. I never planned on doing content. I never in a million years thought I would have the amount of followers that I have today. Nor has my messaging ever changed, irrespective of how many people followed me, right? So before October 7th, I was also speaking out against the anti-Semitism I was seeing. The reality is, it's been around for a very long time, this anti-Israel bias. However, when I felt it, the first time I saw it, or really felt troubled by it, and I was late to the game, I'll admit it, was May of 2021, with the last war that Israel had against Hamas. And I saw it from a vantage point of a Jewish individual in middle Manhattan getting beat up broad daylight by five Palestinians with weapons, hospitalizing the kid. The people, one of the assailants was arrested, taken to Skirmahorn. It's the courthouse. He was released for almost no, it was released on no bail, if my memory serves me right. His friends threw him over their shoulders, hailed him a hero.
I
He was
remember this very well.
celebrating this vicious attack against the Jew. And I said, what the hell is going on?
You know that crew, you know that kid that Arab American kid, Palestinian American kid, Anas.
Yeah. I spoke
He
to him.
knows that group of guys. Just so you know.
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah, he knows that group of guys. There's this guy, Saada Masood, who was arrested for, he went to jail for a year. He's part of that crew. I was following his stories for a while. He sent me a DM of like, "Oh, I'm coming to Miami." And I was like, "Oh, you're telling me your itinerary or are you threatening me?" And then he didn't respond. And then a little bit after that, he got arrested. I had nothing to do with it. But it was very funny. He's like, "I'm coming to Miami." I was like, "All right, buddy, come."
Come. We got something different in
Yeah.
Miami.
Yeah, let's hang out. Let's have a talk, man. Let's have a talk. Let's hang out. So
It's just loudness, man.
they're all in that crew. I think Anas is they probably make fun of him, if I'm being honest. Just no understanding the dynamics of their little circle. I don't think they really care about him much. Um, and funny enough, it seems like he found a little group of people in us. He's trying to get along with us, but he's very confused. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of this kid.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting that they happen to know each other. But yeah, go back, continue with your story.
Um, yeah, no, but that's really what got me speaking out in May 2021, seeing that assault, right? And seeing the injustice that was following afterwards. And I'll tell you something really fucked up. But can I say that word here
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
go ahead. No,
podcast?
you're free to go ahead, by
I
all means.
don't really curse, but when I had this feeling, I'm like, what's wrong with me, right? I continued advocating for the victim in that case, Joey. I continued speaking out for him. I put up petitions to get the case moved to the feds because the DA in New York City wanted to let them go. We got 20, 30,000 signatures. I had meetings. Like I pushed. And then when sentencing came, because initially the plea deals that was offered was garbage, then they gave more serious pleas, more serious deals, which included years of jail. And when that happened, I remember going to the courthouse and sitting there with the victim and the victim's family and friends and everybody that came to the courthouse that day to observe the sentencing of three, I believe three of these individuals who beat up this Jewish kid into a pulp, sent him to the hospital. And every time somebody is sentenced in the criminal context, before you're sentenced, you're able to read off something called not the victim impact statement the victim says, but you're also able to say something to the judge. It's usually your attorney who states whatever facts that they need to state to give mercy to the judge. And then they started off with a story of this individual, how his parents immigrated to this country. He has brothers and sisters. He has to work to help them. They're immigrant family. And there's something there in that story that kind of, I don't want to say the wrong word, that kind of spoke to me on a deeper level, right? Initially, my initial feeling was like, feel bad for this kid. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you, AB? You've been for a year and a half. It's like, send it to jail. And he deserves it, right? He deserved to go to jail. And I contemplated, should I speak about how I'm feeling? And I decided against it because I felt that sharing this part of feeling bad for this person would have hurt the victim, right? Would
Mhm.
have and would have hurt everybody. The judge would have said that the judge didn't have feelings, which isn't true. The judge did what he had to do. The court, the system did what they had to do to send this individual. But I felt very uncomfortable in this weird feeling of, for a split second there, for a moment, I felt bad. And then I started thinking about it. It's like, what made me feel bad about this individual? What made me feel bad about that statement? And that's exactly what a statement of a defendant should make you feel. So his lawyer, hats off to his lawyer, great job. Um, but what I was relating. I was relating to components of that story of being an immigrant, coming from an immigrant family, understanding the hardships of working and this, and your mother and your brothers and his entire family sitting in the galley and they're watching him and they're crying. And for some reason, I started projecting my own self into that situation. And automatically, as a human being, you start feeling this form of compassion, feeling bad, whatever word you want to put on it, right? And it makes no sense whatsoever because This guy not only deserves his jail sentence, he deserves more fucking time in jail. He's a
Right,
piece of
right.
crap. So,
Because at the time he did it, he felt no remorse. He was happy to do it.
exactly. He felt no remorse. And it was a very strange feeling because I shouldn't have felt this form of feeling bad. But you later sit and you start saying to yourself, why was my feeling wrong? Why was my feeling of feeling bad incorrect? Why should I have not had compassion on this individual, right? Like, and this kind of relates to a lot of the things with the Muhammad Mahmoud Khalil guy, right? That's
By
being
the way,
deported.
it's interesting, Avi. It really also relates to the war we're dealing with now because it's very easy for us to lose sight of the bigger picture because of
Right,
everything going on. And this is
right.
what's happened. This is what's happened for the last 76 years. The world kept guilting us, and we never were able to get to to solve
Right,
an actual.
but you have to understand, like the question, the real honest question that we have to ask ourselves is why is the world feeling bad? Right? You're seeing a mother in Gaza saying, I lost my son who's 20 years old. Okay, he died because of this war. And he's a father of three. You'd feel bad. Hell, I'd feel horrible. Why? Because I'm a father. And now I'm relating to this son who was killed in a war, whatever you want to call it, right? They staged it as murder, to your point. And my human side of me, the projecting side of me, projects me. It projects me as the father, an individual who just wants to go to work, somebody who just wants to provide for his family and come back. But that's not the reality. And when we project ourselves, we come to these human conclusions that are illogical, right? Like feeling compassion for this person that was being sentenced, feeling compassion for Mahmoud Khalil who's being deported, feeling
Mhm.
compassion or feeling bad for that 20-year-old terrorist because he died and he was a father of three and his mother is mourning his death. But when you realize that this father of three died, and the only reason they're showing you this compassion is because they want to play on that human compassion. They want to play on this humanity of yours. And so they want you to project yourself, but turn the camera, go to Al Jazeera and look at the mother, and she's in celebration. Why are you in
Right.
celebration? Because my son died as a shaheed. His
Hmm.
children are going to be treated with honor and respect throughout Gaza because their father was a shaheed.
Right.
It is an award. It is a plaque. And so as a human, I can't project that because I don't have that mentality. I don't believe in my death benefiting my children. I believe in my life and my hard work benefiting my children, right? And so they're playing on this on the human condition known as projection. Mahmoud Khalil, for instance, why did people feel bad for Mahmoud Khalil? Very easy. New immigrant came to this country. He's in Colombia. He wants now the projection comes. What does he want? He wants to live a free life in America. He wants to succeed. He wants to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then you start projecting, relating that side of it, but you lose sight of the entire thing. No.
Hmm.
What does he actually want? What has he declared to wanting? The destruction of the United States of America. He has continuously stated time and time and time again how xenophobic, Islamophobic, exophobic, whatever the hell phobic he wants America is. How America is racist. America's a horrible place. Well, if that is the case, then why should you feel bad about his deportation? He is getting a free plane ticket out of a country that he absolutely hates, a country that he believes is racist, xenophobic, etc., etc. So the compassion comes as a human form, and it's undeniable, but it comes because of our projection, just like that individual that was sitting and being sentenced. To me, I'm like, what a wasted opportunity. You could have made your mom proud. You could have been a doctor. You could have went to school and been a lawyer. You could have been a business owner. You could have been X, Y, Z. And instead now I'm watching your mother crying. I'm watching your sisters. I'm watching your brothers. What a tragedy. Tragedy to me because I project those ideals. When I came to this country, when my parents came to this country, we wanted to succeed. We wanted to work. We wanted to accumulate and not simulate, but be integrate into this part of society. And so to me, in my projection of that's, but when you see them continuously bragging about what they did and wanting to do it again and again, you realize that's not what they want. The mother is proud of him. The mother is proud of him because he is marching with the flag of Palestine and the honor of Islamism and whatever the hell they want to say. So, no, I don't feel compassion because the mother isn't compassionate to her son. The son isn't compassionate on himself. I have to feel compassion on him only if I allow him to play me. I allow him to tell me that what I project, my values, my ideals, are what he projects, when that is not the case. And that this is where you get these arguments of false compassion.
So true.
Sorry,
It's
I
so
went like completely like left wing, like
no, no,
on
no.
a right angle
It's
there.
yeah, but I wasn't gonna stop you because it was so good. It was really good. And yeah, I mean this is part of I guess your journey into it, all right? It started in 2021, so I wouldn't say it's not relevant. I
Right.
always found that what were we saying?
This is exactly my journey into this entire
Yeah.
melee. One second,
It's
let me. My son decided to turn on a microphone and start walking around the house, project his voice everywhere. I'm like, come on, dude. I let you put on the TV. There's enough noise. You don't need to
yeah.
add to it.
There's never enough noise in the Hamra house, I bet, huh?
That's it.
I bet. So I had to, okay, it's such an interesting concept in fundamentalist Islam that, and I wouldn't even call it necessarily fundamentalist Islam, for being honest, but you have a woman, a mother, who really wants her child, her son, and even her daughter, who whichever child, she honors that child for sacrificing his or her life for this Islamic cause, but then tries and blames the enemy for killing that same child, which is the most asinine idea. If you are happy that your kid and believe that your kid is going to a better place, thank the person who did it then. You're creating a scenario where you are almost offering your child as a sacrifice, and then you're shocked, you're mind blown when that is the result. You know, when your child
They're
actually
not
dies.
shocked. They're playing.
It is just, but it's so crazy. Yeah, I mean, I do think the parent has sadness. I believe there's both. They also convince themselves. Listen, at the end of the day, it's the whole idea of sacrificing your child for this is a brilliant way to get people to go to war for you, to wage war for you, and it's all culty stuff. It's just stupid,
So I
ridiculous.
don't think it's pure. Look, and I'm not saying Muslims or Islamism or fundamentalists or extremists or even not extremists are, and Islam is a book of peace. Like it's not, right? And
No,
neither is the Torah, if we're being honest, right?
no,
Like, okay, so it's not so much that the religion. What has happened is more so that the religion has aspects in it that can be manipulated, that not necessarily even manipulated. It can be relied upon based on the correct interpretation. And the Palestinian cause has hijacked the Islamic religion. The Palestinian cause has told you, look, in Judaism, for example, if you're, and we have stories of this in our Torah, left and right, where nations come and they tell you, hey, I'm forcing you to bow to another god. I'm forcing you to bow down to an idol. What is the kosher response of a Jew?
to say no and sacrifice his life. Yeah,
Sacrifice their life. What is
right.
the normal response to a Jew if somebody tells you kill somebody else for me, right? For or I shoot you. There's only three things that a person is supposed to die and not do, right? In Judaism,
Mm-hmm,
one is bowing to another god. The other one is adultery, like sleeping with another man's wife.
mm-hmm,
The third thing is killing, killing somebody, regardless. Like if somebody puts a gun to your head, says, "I'm going to shoot you if you don't shoot him," you got to take the bullet. And so, if I was to take a place and say, "Look, if you disagree with this, if you don't fight for Israel, it's as if you're bowing down to a false god. But if you stand up for Israel, you could die. And you stand up for Israel and you die, you start blending it in together, right? And that's what's happened with the Palestinian cause, whatever the hell they want to call it in general. It's this idea of, look, Islam says this: it is our land. And if you don't agree with us that this is our land, then what you are is an infidel. If you don't agree that this land needs to be Islamic land in the ideas of the 1916 Great Arab Revolt, where it's all controlled by one great Arab nation, then what you are is an infidel, a denier of God, a traitor to Islam. Do you want to be a traitor to Islam? And then this is stated year after year, generation after generation after generation. Now you're here, and these kids are dying, and the parents are celebrating. Well, why wouldn't they celebrate? Their grandparents told them, their parents had told them, and they're fighting for the honor of Islam. Now, does Islam actually give a shit about Palestine? The Quran doesn't mention Palestine once. And so it is a false manipulation of the entire situation to link it to a religion, to gain the numbers, and that's where the extremism comes in. It's not to say that Islam is this religion of flowers and sunshine and peace. I saw some American girl who was on a video trying to down talk the portions in the Quran that says something about the disbelievers. And she's like, oh, the disbelievers were the people that were sacrificing their babies and the children, and the Muslims don't kill them unless they attack the Muslim community. Well, no, that's not fucking true. The existence of the word of dhimmi disproves your argument. Stop trying to kosherize the Torah. Stop trying to kosherize the Bible. Stop trying to kosherize the Quran. It is what it is. The non-believers were the Jews. The non-believers were the Christians. However, we had the zechut, right? The honor, the merit in the Islamic world to be looked upon as the people of the book. And as such, we got an exemption from this general crowd of non-believers. In exchange for this exemption of being able to continue living as a Jew or a Christian or whatever, we had to pay a jizya for our existence. We were subjugated, oppressed, etc., etc. We were discriminated against. So what happened? Sorry, the microphone plopped out. So we were discriminated against, right? So what happens then if? Oh my God, I just completely lost my my train of thought with the stupid microphone thing.
Well, basically, the Christians and the Jews
Right.
are
So
not as fucked as everyone else. We have it a little bit better, but we're still
yeah, I mean, you still are the non-believer. You're the non-believer that the Quran speaks about. Who's a non-believer? Anybody that does not believe that Muhammad was the last prophet and that is,
They give us a little bit of leeway because, well, especially maybe the Jews a little more, but they give us a little bit of leeway because, well, they hate the Jews more in a way. It really depends.
Right. And so we were the people of the book. So we were somewhat not really fucking even protected. We were still attacked by
Well, there was
Muslim
also
mobs.
because the plan is to eventually convert us, but it's just more of it's a temporary figure outing of like, and
Right.
different empires were nicer to us than others. But so you might have had I'm just throwing this like the Abbasid Empire might have been like, well, we don't really accept you, but we'll let you live here for the time being as Jews. Whereas
Well,
another empire would actually force us to convert. It would depended on who the king was or who the emperor was, and
absolutely.
if he
And
was
the
in a happy
great
marriage, if
the
he liked his
great
wives enough.
the great Islamic debate, was around what if dhimitude, if being a dhimmi obligates and protects the Jewish community or the Christian community living as dhimmis. And that's why you see a flip from leader to leader. Some leaders says yes. The idea of being a dhimmi was the Prophet Muhammad's way of saying, look, we'll respect them to live. We don't need to convert them. We don't need to kill them if they're doing all these things. If they're subjugating themselves and they're paying us taxes, they can exist. And we will give them protection. But then some leaders said, no, that's not what it meant, because look at the outcome at Khaybar, at the end of it, because this is where the word dhimmi really comes from, the Battle of Khaybar. It's like, no, it doesn't really give them protection. That's a lie. That's false. We can attack them, even if they're paying taxes, even if da da da. Now, her point in that video, though, was to show that that term didn't apply to anybody but some like radical group of pagans who were sacrificing their children. That's who the not believers are. Well, very simply, look up Zoroastrians. Zoroastrians fought for centuries to be included in this description of a dhimmi. Because if you weren't a dhimmi and you weren't Muslim, you weren't alive.
Right.
And so that's complete crap. It's a sanitization of these books. It's like, stop, just be real about it. And if we're real about it, and we show how the Palestinian cause, this bullshit supremacist cause, is clinging onto and hijacking a complete religion, you have a better stance to make an argument from. And that's really where I argue from. That stance. It's this manufactured Palestine, the state of Palestine. No, it's not. It's a manufactured ideal. It's an ideal that the entire region needs to be ruled under one Islamic, whether you're Sunni or Shiite, this word may change, caliphate, kingdom, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? That's what Palestine symbolizes. That is what Palestine is. Like, I've seen too many Jews playing around with that book, and trying to sanitize that as well.
It's also funny that you have people like you have assholes like Norman Finkelstein and what's his name, Gabor Mate, and you have all of these progressive liberal apologist Jews, and they keep playing on the side. Forget about them to begin with. Although I'd love to just sit down with Norman. What is? I mean, they always come at it from this argument of being a land dispute. And it's crazy to me how Jews still don't understand, how so many of us still don't understand that this is almost completely a religious war, almost 100%.
Yeah, the Norman Finkelsteins of the world crack me up, man. And I'll tell you why they crack me up. Because you can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
Mhm.
It's not humanly possible. If you're telling me that the pro-Palestinian squad, the pro-Palestinian side, they're a bunch of authentic, credible, great, unbelievable individuals, but and that I have to listen to them and I have to believe them. And then I look at them and I look at their statements. I'm like, okay, let me listen to them. Let me believe them. And then they're telling Jews, go back to Poland, go back to Germany. You're not the real Jews. You are Ashkenazi Jews. You're not the real Jews. And then Norman Finkelstein comes on and he goes, as a Jew, well, hold on, buddy. If I'm believing this group of people, if I am taking their argument seriously, if I'm saying they're not anti-Semites for saying these obviously false and bullshit statements against my Ashkenazi brothers and sisters, if that's all not true and they're holy and they're truthful, then why do you say as a Jew? You're a fucking
Right,
European Jew, right? And it doesn't
right,
mean you're a
right,
real Jew. That's what your
right,
people are telling you, not me. Let me
right,
clarify this for everybody watching, not me. I believe we're all one. But if you agree with the Palestinians and you're a European Jew, you're not a fucking Jew. Hold your standard correctly. Hold
right.
the standard that you want to apply. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. But what Norman
Beautifully put.
Finkelstein does, and he does it brilliantly because we have allowed him to do it, we have set the stage for our attackers to attack us, is utilize the Holocaust to continue to justify the existence of Israel, to say this is why Israel was created. These are the people that went to Israel. And as a survivor of one of them, I want to hear, when did Norman Finkelstein ever talk about the Mizrahi Jews, ever talk about the million Jewish refugees? And this spills over, and people completely forget and underestimate and de-amplify and just throw to the side the voices of Jews from Arab countries or Arabized countries, as my friend Tal correctly pointed
It's
out,
very
right?
good. It's a very good. Yes, he has an amazing video on that, by the way.
Brilliant, brilliant. When he spoke about it at the panel, I'm like, dude, I love it. You're 100% right.
When he, it's great.
But think about it. Norman Finkelstein comes. We survived the Holocaust. We built a place. You have to understand.
I can't bear to see these atrocities that are being committed
Right.
now.
Now imagine you're a Jew or you're not a Jew. You are somebody with absolutely no exposure to the diversity of the Jewish world. Okay? And you're hearing Norman Finkelstein in this politicized, hyped up thing. And you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this guy says he's Jewish. I'm American. What do I know about Jews, right?
Hmm.
I'm from South Dakota. And he says that the reason Israel exists is because this horrible tragedy took place in Germany. by this leader, right? It took place in many more places
Mm-hmm.
in Germany. By Hitler, this horrible tragedy took place, and the Jewish people, they needed a safe place to stay, so they went to the Middle East. Why? Because 2,000 years ago, they had some relatives from the Middle East. And they said, now this is our safe space. And in the process, the people in the Middle East, who the world calls Arabs, are seen crying and saying, oh my God, I'm being pushed out. I'm being pushed out. And now Norman Finkelstein comes and says, you know, I am a survivor. My grandfather, my father, my whatever. I was the survivor of this. We never intended on this. We don't want Israel anymore. Come to America, Habibi. America #1. And you're as the American, you're like, I get it. Like, what the fuck? I don't
If you don't know
understand.
any better, he seems like he is just a Jew who's standing up for the cause, for the
Right.
poor people of Palestine. It's so
Right.
you don't have the ability to think with nuance, and you don't know, especially what happened with the Mizrahi Jews. There's so many points that no one makes when they talk to him. Another thing, but hold your thought because I have to throw this in here. I've just realized that he has such a hard time understanding that Jewish people, in order to keep a state, which he doesn't give a shit about, which he probably wants to see destroyed. Although I can tell you that the first place he would want to run to if America went to shit and people were slaughtering Jews, he'd try to run to Israel after bashing it his entire life, which I hope they would never let him in.
They
But the
better
point
deny
is,
him.
huh?
They better deny him.
But knowing the Israelis, it'd be like, all right, we'll
Like,
protect you,
come,
stupid.
come.
Yeah, calm, you stupid shit. Yeah. Anyway, you're like, oh, thank you, thank you. And anyway, um, it's wild to me how he expects Jews to just roll over and die. He sees it as wrong that Jews actually have the ability to be ruthless, that they have the ability to wage war. And I say ruthless in the proper context, because when you're dealing with people like Hamas, when you're dealing with people that want to murder you, there has to be a a point where you're able to remove a level of emotion and do what needs to be done. There needs to be, if you have an enemy that's trying to slaughter you, you can't win the war by hugging them. It doesn't work that way.
No.
So he has this idea. Norman Finkelstein has a very hard time conceptualizing that Jewish people not only should be very tough and rigid and violent when need be, but it's a good thing. Okay. And so he allows the Palestinians, the Arabs, the Muslims, they have a right to be ruthless because he always justifies Hamas actions, October 7th. But God forbid, Jewish people, we have no right. We have no right to wage the war. We don't even have a right to exist there in the first place. And it's just so interesting that however many years ago, he started down this hole. He started down, taking this path. He's gotten to a point where it's Jews should have taken October 7th and just done absolutely nothing. We should have allowed the hostages to have been abducted. We should have freed 10, 15,
Because
20,000
you don't
terrorists.
belong there. Because he's a
Yeah,
racist. He's a white
right,
supremacist. I
right,
know
right.
these movements love these fucking words. Let's talk about these words. He
Yeah.
is the definition of a racist white supremacist piece of shit. And it's very easy and very clear to see it. You see, with the example he gives, all the examples he gives, you rely, and the reason he doesn't believe that us Jews have the right to fight back, because he doesn't believe us Jews are from the Middle East. He
Right.
believes that the Jews, he is the counter, the complete polar opposite of these pro-Palestinian groups, these pro-Hamas terrorist bastards that are on the street. He is the polar opposite. He actually believes that Jewry is white. He believes that Jewry is exclusively European. That is exactly what this man thinks. And so when you think that, when you believe that, you're saying, what are we doing in the fucking Middle East? Let's get out. Well, screw you, asshole.
But how does that
My
even make
fam.
sense, AB? How does that even? No, I'm hearing what you're
Yeah,
saying,
hit it.
but how the fuck can you be so ridiculous?
It's not. It's
Judaism.
racism, man.
No, but it's like, how are Jews from Europe if the whole concept of everything about the entire religion stems from the land that we're fighting for right now? Without Israel, our religion it kind of leads to nothing. It's the entire foundation. It's the root of the tree of Judaism, Jews, everything. So trying to negate that, where is it? It's so crazy.
It's not. It's not crazy at all. I think it makes perfect sense, and I'll tell you why. And people always get squeamish. I think that's the right word when I speak about this, but I never intended to go after people in this movement. I'm talking about high-level ideas of the movement, right? This all started with the Reform movement in the 1800s in Germany, when they decided that it was them and they had the authority to evolve the Torah. They had the authority to talk about what it meant to be Jewish, what is Jewish, and they strictly kept it from a European lens. Fast forward, before the Holocaust, in Germany, there were people saying Berlin is the new Judaism. The reality was the Mizrahi part, the non-European Jews, for a very long time were discriminated against and were not seen as equals. Yeah, that's fact. I mean, and
Yeah.
I don't hold it against anybody. At the end of the day, I understand people are different, right? Like the first time I saw an Ashkenazi Jew from Europe, I'm like, well, what the hell is this? It's a blondie. It's an American. Like that's not a real Jew. Like we're human beings. We expect to
Well,
see.
you have a lot of blonde Syrians. I know it's not necessarily the
No,
point you're
I know.
making.
I'm just taking the
I know, I know,
extreme
I know, I know, I
example,
know.
but
I
like,
get it. I
so
get it.
I get early Israel, right? Early Israel before Israel, not early Israel. I would say the early Zionist movement was highly racist. They were. My great grandfather, for instance, went to worked in the British Mandate of Palestine at the time, working for the Zionists, but he would get half the salary of an Ashkenazi Jew because he was a Arab Jew, as what we
Right.
were classified, right? And so Norman Finkelstein comes from this school of thought. So it doesn't not make sense. He just does not see us, non-white, non-European Jews, as real Jews. He will not accept us as being Jews because if he did, then his one kicker of a statement where he thinks he's so fucking wise by making it completely exposes him. And I've used this because people have brought this up in an argument to justify October 7th. And I'm like, the reason why many Jews would be stumped at this is because they don't have the full breadth of what it means or the diversity in the Jewish world, right? So here's the example. Here's the thing that Norman Finkel, fuck, whatever his name is.
Twinkle,
Um,
twinkle, twinkle,
you
twinkle.
what he says, imagine, you're living, you're married, and your husband beats you, right? Your husband beats you day in and day out. Your husband's hitting you, your husband's beating you, and you're the wife, and you're helpless, right? And you're calling the police, and the police aren't showing up, or when the police come, they do nothing. And this happens year after year, month after month, week after week, day after day. Eventually, you can't take it anymore. You wake up and you stab your husband in a force of resistance, right? Why? Because you're a battered wife syndrome, which is a real legal defense, by the way. And so it speaks to people, and people are like, oh, that makes sense why they had to do what they had to do on October 7th. And then, somebody brought that up and goes, and I stopped them. I said, well, hold up. Now, nobody has done that to Norman Finkelstein yet. Why? Because Mizrahi voices don't really get platformed. So, 1 minute, who's the wife and who's the husband in this analogy of yours? What are you talking about? Right, what I'm talking about? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. You're crying of 76 years of oppression. I want to talk to you about century after century of unrelenting violence against the Jewish community from 634 until the present. So in this that over 1,000-year history, right? We're going on what is it, like 1,000, 1,500, 1,600 years? I don't know exact number. Jews were oppressed. Jews were made dhimmis. Jews were subjugated. Violence was committed against the Jewish community. We were called Musawis. We were called others. Can we be considered the battered wife that finally woke up and took resistance against this abusive husband? And even if you believe that the Nakba happened exactly like the Muslims and the Arabs say it happened, then were we not justified in doing that as being the oppressed, as being the wife who finally rose up against the husband? And the people have no fucking response because you cannot defend both at the same time. You can't say the Palestinians were justified in October 7th, but the Jews weren't after 1,700 years of oppression and violence during this Nakba of theirs.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
that
if we have
argument
to,
doesn't come naturally to somebody not from the Middle East, because again, humans project. They project their own experiences in their own life, and that's why a lot of my platform is pushing Mizrahi voices to the forefront. It's not because
it's a
I don't
lot
believe.
harder. No, it's a lot harder for people to argue the Mizrahi narrative. It's very easy for a lot of people to brush off the Ashkenazi talking points.
Right.
They go, Europeans, whatever. With when someone like you or someone like Tal, when you guys make points like this, it has so much weight, and it's such a mistake. It's such a mistake that your voices haven't been platformed more. And I see that it's changing. It's going to change. It's going to change.
I mean,
I've been somebody who's been saying this for a very fucking long time.
it better change, but we're not waiting for them anymore.
No, no,
And that's the thing, right? I don't need, and this is one part where I think some organizations don't love me. I don't need their love. I don't need their money. I don't need their
what
support.
do they
That's
not
not
love?
what
What
I
do they
need.
not love? That you're brash, that you say what's up, that you
Yeah,
aren't filtered.
yeah. You have no idea how many times I've been invited to a panel, or I've been invited to something, and the person who invites me, basically at the end of it, takes a breath of sigh, like relief, like, whoo, oh my god, dude, thank God. I'm like, calm down. Like, why are you so shocked that I did a good job? Like, dude, I know how to fucking talk. I'm a lawyer. I litigated for 10 years. It'd be embarrassing if I came to a panel and I
So
can't
this
speak as
leads me,
well as a college student, right? Like, it doesn't
yeah.
fucking make sense. Why are you
This
shocked? And their response to me, time and time again, is we told people we were inviting you. We asked some people, and they told us, be careful. He's extreme. He's harsh. He's this. Because they'd rather platform Arab voices as Arab voices. God forbid they try to find a Jew who was subjugated and oppressed by the Arabs. No, because they want to keep this image, and I don't fucking understand why that the Jews
we
are
get into
here
this.
and that the Arabs are here.
Can we get into this? Can we get into this? Because this is fantastic. Okay, you know who I'm gonna. I'm not bringing up her name to talk smack. I'm bringing up her name because she sent me a DM about it, and I think you're gonna agree with me 1,000,000%. And it's not gonna be politically correct, and it's not about her at all. I just want to say, I think she's great. Well, hopefully we're gonna have her on the show. But Ashley Waxman Bakshi, she basically watched a video that I recorded. I think with Tal, or was it? Maybe it was with Yishai Fleischer, and Yishai agreed with me completely. Tal, of course, agreed with me on this. But I basically said that a lot of this liberal, woke, progressive, politically correct, soft apologist, appeasement nonsense is an Ashkenazi mentality. And I didn't say that because, and I said it's this softness, and we're always believing, this idea of a two-state solution, and trying to make all these concessions, and trying to justify every little thing that Israel does and that the Jews do. And she was saying, I think it's a very divisive way of speaking, and I think it separates us, and we have to be together. I said, it has nothing to do with that. I, lo- I love all Jews. I think we're all family. But at the end of the day, we need to be proclaiming, we need to be stating things, we need to be very clear on who we are as Jews, what Israel is. These things need to be stated clearly. And we're so worried, you giving me that example of these panel hosts that you're talking about. They're so worried about you not saying the right things or coming off in the correct way. It's an issue.
It's beyond it. Look, I don't.
Do you hear where I'm coming from?
I hear because I've said that before, and I said Ashkenazi is like, what the fuck are you doing, guys? Like, wake the fuck up. And then I was told, like, dude, what are you talking about? And I took a break, and I really
You
examined.
don't have to backtrack because you get a lot of shit for this. I hope
No, I don't. I'm not.
when we
I'm
get off
absolutely.
air, you could rip it apart if you
No,
need
no,
to.
no.
Okay.
It's not about backtracking at all. I'm not backtracking on it. I
Yeah.
I think what we're missing though in
Yeah.
this is the Ashkenazi community. First of all, I think Israel is completely different. And I believe
Sure.
Ashley lives in Israel. Israel, they're not dividing themselves between Ashkenazi and Mizrahi. Half of them are intermarried. They don't even know. All right, like you sent me that video, and
No,
that's
but
the reality.
I'm talking about the we're not talking
I
about
know.
people in the West Bank, for example, or the Yudan Shomron, who are
I'm with you,
largely
right? And so Yishai
mostly.
Fleischer is
No.
Ashkenazi.
There's many very, very right-wing Ashkenazim for sure.
Okay.
But
So now
if we're
what's that
talking
issue?
about if we're talking about the what issue?
What's that? So there's a dichotomy there, right? In the Ashkenazi world that we don't see in the Mizrahi world. um, and that is the denomination of the religion, and that's where you get it. That's where there's the differences. That's why I stopped saying Ashkenazi, because I have went to one Ashkenazi Orthodox community after another Ashkenazi Orthodox community after another Ashkenazi Orthodox community. They're not apologetic. They're proud. They're Zion. They're whatever you want to call
No, you're
Zionists.
right. You're
They're
right.
Jews,
I
but
don't even like. Yeah.
we as Mizrahim, we don't have reform, we don't have conservative. We're Jews. You're religious, you're not religious, you're just a Jew. Like, it's not that special.
Right.
Like, relax. And so the people that do happen to be Ashkenazi Jews, right? And so the reform movement, for instance, and again, I'm not talking about individual people in it. There's a lot of great pro-Israeli voices and unbelievable people there, but the ideology, the idea of the entire reform movement, that's where you see anti-Israel Jews. That's where you see a lot of the apologetic Jews coming out. The reform has moved on to anti-Zionist Jew. The conservative is stuck with a two-state Jew, but the Orthodox Ashkenazi community is aligned with the Orthodox Mizrahi community, who's saying it's all Israel, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and there's a reason for that. And it's just quite honestly, I had this conversation, I think, with who was I talking to? I don't know, but I said it actually makes a lot of sense. If I was Reform, I wouldn't be Zionist. It makes sense ideologically. It makes sense. If you're telling me that you can reform Shabbat and say it's no longer relevant, if I can now drive on Shabbat, it's okay. Doing this is no longer relevant. If you're able to pick and choose and evolve the Torah from Germany on your own, and you move to America and you're really changing the Torah to customize yourself to a Western life, and now you're a person in America and they're like, hey, we're going to Israel. You believe Jews are from Europe. You believe that the Torah has evolved and it could evolve and that Shabbat no longer matters, then why should this one small little piece of land in middle of the Middle East make any difference to you? Then you take Joe Rogan, not Joe Rogan, whatever his name is, Seth Rogen's statement, and it makes
Mm-hmm.
complete sense. Why are you putting us, in middle of all of our enemies? It's like taking things, your valuables, putting them in a blender and thinking they're going to be safe. Well, if you don't look at that blender as holy, if you don't look at that blender as somewhere that you originate from, if you've stripped away the value of that blender, then you're fucking right. It's just a blender. But and that's a phenomenon, right? And so now these Reform Jews who are believing the only object, not the people, the movement, who believes the only um, goal we should have is tikkun olam. It's repairing the world. It's making everybody whole and happy and da 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 and all that bullshit again. Then what more happiness? Like, we're just gonna go away. We're gonna go back to America. We're Western people, and so we're
Yeah.
just gonna go back to where we came from, the West. And you guys like chill over there, and like as long as we got like a piece of Alabama and we're guaranteed safety there, we're good. And that's why it also made sense when Herzl pitched Uganda. Like, the guy had no connection to the Torah, and it makes fucking sense. I can't argue against the logic. I actually I've asked this question and I get a lot of people offended and telling me, hey, I'm Reform and I love Israel. And I'm like, I love you. I don't hate Reform people. I don't think every Reform shul and every Reform person and every Reform da 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 is anti-Zionist, but it cannot be denied. Reality cannot be denied. You can try to deny it as much as you'd like, but the people who signed letters in the New York Times, these rabbis that signed fucking letters in the New York Times against Israel, were not Orthodox rabbis. They were not Orthodox Ashkenazi. They were not Orthodox Sephardic. They were Reformed rabbis. You
Right.
want to ignore this? You want to say this is just coincidental? Fine, ignore the fucking problem. But don't tell me to ignore the problem, because talking about the problem may hurt your feelings. Maybe it's time they reform Judaism and bring it back to the OG. Bring it
Yeah,
back to
that's the
what it means
problem.
to be a nation, not a religion only.
That's another component. So I really will die on this hill, man. I think it's a, you want to call it. I don't even like the whole Ashkenazi Sephardi Mizrahi thing anymore. We primarily live in the same areas. We have most Jews in Israel. We have the other half of the Jews in America for the most part. We're all mixing between America, Canada, and the other some parts of Europe, wherever we are. Most Jews are concentrated in small parts of the world, and we all intermarry and we're all together now. So I think we should really, kind of forego a lot of these silly things and really just try to create as much of oneness as possible. So I very much
Absolutely.
agree with Ashley on that, and I want there to be unity. But there's a very big issue with this secular approach to trying to solve anything regarding Israel, and it doesn't work. It does. I'm losing you. I lost you. Say it again. Can't hear anything, bro.
I muted myself so I can tell
Yeah.
my son to stop with the microphone.
Okay. Okay.
We're
No
good.
worries. Yeah.
Go
Yeah, no
for it.
problem. No, I just think that we can't solve this if we aren't willing to connect spirituality to it to some extent. And I think even if we're not going to make it about it, because not everybody's, I'm not a very religious person, as far as I know, you aren't either necessarily. Just from the idea of being a Jew, whether you're an atheist, ultra Orthodox, modern, what have you are still part of the family. That
And that's my
very
point.
much was evident, and it's very evident in the Holocaust. It didn't matter if you were atheist. I can guarantee you in Baghdad, it didn't matter if there were however many atheists, Iraqi Jews there were at the time.
Absolutely.
Okay, it didn't make a difference. They weren't asking, "Are you an atheist?" Okay, I'll leave you alone.
Absolutely. This is why I stand against denominations of Jews. Hell, I don't even like the word Orthodox, to be honest with you, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think you're like in Syria, you weren't Orthodox, you weren't conservative, you weren't this, you weren't that, you're just Jewish. There were some Jews that would go to the cafe and gamble on Saturday. There were some Jews that would go to shul and then get into their car and drive and have a picnic. And there were some Jews that would walk to shul, walk back home, and keep Shabbat. But we were all Jews. We prayed in the same synagogue. We believed in the same book. There was one component to it that I think is unique, and the reason you're seeing denominations in Western countries majorly and not in let's say Eastern countries, like I don't think you're
Well, you
seeing
guys
them.
do separate. You know it's interesting though, real quick. The Jews from the West don't really go, "Oh, I'm Hungarian or I'm Romanian or
Right.
I'm this." We're all just it's all just a hodgepodge. But actually, it's Mizrahim who are like, "Oh no, I'm Moroccan, I'm Yemenite, I'm this."
Yeah,
They actually do separate that
we
as far as
separate based on
countries,
where we're from, but not
right?
really. It doesn't really mean anything, right? Like we don't believe that if you're from um, Morocco, let's say, you're entitled to a different take, or you're entitled to a different Torah. Let me give you a perfect example, and this is
Right, but
where
there is that like stupid, right? Like let's say there is
Halabi
that
and
from that
Hey,
sense.
we separate within Syrian. You're from Halab, I'm from Shan, right?
There's a
We're
social
tribal.
status thing, like, "Oh, I'm
It,
Syrian, you Bukharian, or I'm Moroccan, and you're this." People do have a sense of like silly social classes
it,
that,
it makes sense. It's all products of our simulation. All
uh,
of this is beautiful. Why? Because it's a people who have assimilated in different parts of the world coming together to try to make one, to be one again.
amazing.
And
That
so
video,
if
that
we're
Unpacked video was amazing, wasn't it?
it was a great video, and it's true, right? Like that's and I've always said that people are like, how aren't you annoyed the early Zionists that discriminated? I'm like, how do you want me to be annoyed? They don't, they're living their life. They're going to shul. It's their way of praying. This is how they were brought up. This is how I was brought up. So you put me in an Ashkenazi shul, I don't know what they're saying. Am I discriminating again? Like, it's not discrimination. It's our difference in assimilation. Now and you see that actually, and it was very interesting that you brought that up because it just made me realize something, right? Think about it. The Jews of the Eastern world, the Jews of Syria, Iraq, Morocco, et cetera, were very insular. They're an insular community because of the dangers from the exterior. We were under threat. You were holding on to your Jewish identity. You were called a dhimmi for it. You were attacked for it. You were discriminated against for it. It cost something to be that Jew. It cost you something to be in this club. And you developed your culture and your customs and your thing, and you took pride in them because you understood the cost that you were paying to be that unique person. In the Western world, in Europe, in America, for instance, they were facing a very different type of assimilation. It was accepted. People didn't, it wasn't a very religious place. Like Syria, the Muslims, held it. This is Muslim, this is Christian in Lebanon, this is it. The religion was a big part of who the country was. It was a big part of people's identity. Europe, not so, right? You were European. I mean, you're from Germany. You had people come from Poland. You had people come down from Hungary. Nobody asked you if you're a Jew. You didn't have a Jew stamped on your I don't know if they, before the Holocaust, you didn't have a Jew stamped on the passport. Like you were just a European man, just like
Mhm,
you're a American guy, right? Like here in
mhm.
America, who so happens to be Jewish, who's also Jewish. And that comfort, that relaxation, that idea that okay, we can let down our guard a little bit. And it's very natural. I People become less religious when they go to freer democracies because of the,
100%.
the choices. You're letting down that guard And that's your challenge. And so then you start separating, not based on country, because you're not it's not based on the Jews of Hungary versus the Jews of Germany, because what you're really fighting for now is, I'm a German, I'm also a Jew. Over there you were Jewish, you didn't have the option to say I'm an Arab and I'm also a Jew. No, they didn't even take you as an Arab, you're just a fucking
Right.
Jew. Over
Right.
there you're like, no, I'm a German man, I'm a Hungarian man, I'm a whatever man, I'm also Jewish. And then you had the splintering off. You had people who were like, you know what? Look, I'm going to say this word: the West has less accountability. When you live in freer democracies, you become less keen to be accountable for things. Like, okay, I want to do this because I want to do this, and I'm free. And if I'm free and I can do this, then why the hell can't I do this? Because some God in the sky told me not to, right? Like,
Right.
it starts making sense. How I became less religious, obviously, as further I get away from my community, the less religious when I went to college, for instance.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
And
It's really thought-provoking topic. I like this. Yeah.
and so they broke it up, right? And so the people who wanted to evolve and wanted to be more European and didn't want those guardrails, those things of protection that interrupted their assimilation in Europe, right? Like, imagine all your friends, all your boys want to go out for a drink every Friday night, and you're like, God damn it! I every Friday night I have to come home to kiddush. I can't drive. I can't spend money. What is this bullshit? How am I going to live my life?
Right.
I'm listen, guys. We've been living here for fucking 1,000 years already. We've been kicked out. Like, let this thing has to evolve. The Torah has to change. These rules are no longer valid. These why it's what made you think about that in 1800? Because you, in your personal freedom, didn't want to be held back from assimilating as an equal in that society that you lived
Right.
in. In Syria, you didn't have that option, and so you held on to who you
And let me tell you
the
something.
religious aspect.
I actually think that in certain respects, that separation was a good thing because it created a sense of pride in the Jews from the East. And I know I'm being very general here. I'm not saying this is a general consensus, but I do think that in Europe it was so comfortable at certain points that they kind of just they abandoned their identity and they were reminded, unfortunately we were reminded very, very badly that no matter how much we tried to run away from that's the lesson I hope Jews will take for eternity is, you want to adopt to the culture, you want to be American, enjoy the things America has to offer. Fantastic. I love being in America. You love being in America. It's great. But if we forget that we're Jewish and we try to run away from it, we'll be reminded of it eventually. We
Yeah,
will.
it's human nature though, man. I mean, like, I'm not even blaming the people in Europe. It's like human nature, you
I get
know.
it. Totally, man. I get
You
it.
you want to fit into your society, and
But
I get it.
if I
Like,
lived in if I lived in Germany right now, I lived in like the middle of Hamburg, and everyone's like, "Oh, wieder Schnitzel, yes, I love the gay parade. We're gonna go tomorrow." Oh, you're immersed in that culture. Everyone's so free, and
and nobody's hating you, right? Like before the
right.
Holocaust, it wasn't like, oh, I have to hide, I have to protect it, I have to make sure
It
I'm
went
not
completely the other way
showing.
around.
And so you're like, yeah, I just want to fit in. You're a human being. You want to fit into your society. I get it. It's the most human aspect, the most human thing ever. But those are the two separate experiences of our diaspora that haven't really healed. They haven't connected. And so I think we need to strip all this bullshit. Mizrahi, Sephardic, Ashkenazi, reform, not this, not that. Just eventually that should be the goal. One Jew, one Jewish, and people can have their individuality within this Judaism. They just have to take the accountability. For instance, I want to use my cell phone on Shabbat. Let's assume I do. I have gotten messages. I'm getting a message from this one guy every day telling me, be Shomer Shabbat. I'm like, bro, nobody told you I wasn't. But let's assume I want to use my cell phone on Shabbat. I am free to do so. I'm not telling you we need to take stones and start killing people in the street for using their phone on Shabbat or for doing this or doing that or breaking this law. But I acknowledge it. I say, I'm using my phone. I shouldn't be using my phone. I'm breaking the code of my tribe. Let's not call it a religion. I am breaking the tribal code.
Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hold on, give me 1 second. Hello.
All right.
I just moved into a new apartment and I got a part of my new couch delivered. So
Oh, no doubt. Mazal tov,
yeah,
mazal
so
tov.
they were just called. The FedEx was knocking on the door. They have this huge box, and I was like, all right.
Mazal tov, man. But yeah, that's the goal, man. We should all just be one and understand these are the rules of the tribe. The reason I object to the reform movement's evolution is because you didn't ask everybody. And if you don't ask everybody, then you can't change the constitution of the tribe. The Torah, if we consider ourselves a people, and I've had this conversation with a rabbi, and he said, that's why the reform movement and the Natura Katra are almost identical. They strip away the peoplehood of Judaism and they keep it strictly as a religion. If I looked at it as a peoplehood and we were guided, we were tribes, and we were living under this operation of a constitution known as the Torah, which told our traditions and told our stories and had our laws and obligations of the tribe. Let's put God to the side. Hasbe shalom. He's, Hashem's Hashem, but let's just put it to the side. Let's say it's not real. Like it's just a tribal book of code, a tribal constitution. You cannot evolve it in Germany in 1855 by yourself. You have no authority to do that. And I mean, you can do it for yourself, but you cannot call that mainstream Judaism. You have to say that this is no longer Judaism. This is
Mhm.
a an abridged version because you broke away from the peoplehood. You're creating your different tribal code. Now, if you want to change the Torah, if you want to evolve the Torah, great. Our Torah evolved. It has evolved a million times. In the Gemara, it evolves. There's a story of the two rabbis arguing, right? And we were given a way to evolve the Torah. Hashem on Mount and Har Sinai told us, you are to live by these laws, meaning they have to be, you have to be able to utilize them as in life. And so the way we would evolve the law, the Torah, the setup from Moshe Rabbeinu till now, was if us as a unanimously as a nation, we put our authorities in place and they vote for something and say this is what the Torah means. If the majority agree with it, the majority of our tribe agrees with it, you go ahead and you evolve the Torah. They did this so many times. There's one story, very famous, and this is where you get the concept from in the Gemara. Two rabbis were arguing, two groups were arguing, the minority and the majority, and they wouldn't let go of the argument. It went on for a day, and 2 days, and 3 days, and 4 days, and it got fiercer and fiercer, and they're debating. Eventually, Abat Kol, Hashem's voice comes from Shamayim and tells them, "Stop arguing. The minority position is right. The majority position is wrong." The Talmud says this. They respond, "Lo Torah lo b'shamayim here." Like the Torah is not in the sky. The Torah is for us on earth, not for heaven. And Hashem laughed and said, "My sons have beat me, have prevailed against me." What? Like, makes no sense. What are you talking about? Makes complete sense. Hashem gave us the Torah, told us it's in your hands to live by it, meaning you can evolve it, you can change it, understanding it, but under this formula. If this formula is not followed, doesn't matter. Even if you're right, it doesn't matter. You did not follow the formula of the tribe. And so this is my biggest problem with the reform. You do not get to state that this is a Jewish value. Stop saying Jewish value. Stop saying Jewish value to describe assimilated values. Stop saying that. It's your value. It's your value. Jewish value is the Tanakh, it's the Torah, it's all these books together. Well, our stories and our traditions, our stories of war, our stories of history. From that history, we can draw our values. Not tikkun olam and nothing else with it. And no understanding what tikkun olam means. And no understanding that it also involves us being better Jews religiously. Instead of just, oh, we have to be a light on the nation. So they literally take it as lighting street lamps. Like, well, what are you doing? No, that's not the objective. That's not the understanding of it. But that's always been my beef with that movement. It's not the people, God forbid, hasbe shalom. It's really the ideology that it represented, or the idea it represented.
Got it. So
Give me a
what
quick second. I'm sorry, I spilled my.
no worries.
All right, we're back. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, the only thing that I'm just trying to kind of understand from what you're saying is, to play devil's advocate, you said to take the laws or the values of Judaism, but evolve it. So how do you evolve it if it's staying the same? Like, how does that actually work in practice? Because then a Reformed Jew might hear what you said and be like, "What do you mean? That's exactly what I'm doing." So
Right,
how do
but they're
you?
not doing that because they're not following the procedure of doing that. It was a bunch of
So
German in Germany, a few rabbis in Germany or whatever that decided to do that, and every synagogue gets to evolve the law that they want to evolve the law. You're no longer a tribe. You're no longer a people.
how do you evolve it in a way that doesn't change it?
Not
Like,
a
what is
problem. The Talmud. No, change it. The Talmud, for instance. How is the Talmud? What is it? Right? Many people don't understand that it was a place, a common meeting spot on a journey somewhere, right? And it was rabbis or authority figures representing with authority the communities of the Jewish world, the entire Jewish world, because we
right?
all lived in proximity. And so they would go representing their people and talk about how to interpret a certain sentence or a certain law from the book. The majority of them, they would take a vote, the majority would win. And that's how you evolved it within the system. If now you're telling me the rabbi in some synagogue goes, I believe that what it says, lo tebaru esh bechol meshavotechem, don't ignite fire anywhere in any of your dwellings. What that statement really means, it's not talking about a real fire. It's talking about you arguing with your family, you arguing with your wife, you making problems and making fights and hurting the world. What it means is that our job in this world is unity and light and goodness, the opposite of fire, the opposite of rage, the opposite of anger. And so we're all going to hold hands every Shabbat. We're going to play our guitar and we're going to sing with our microphone, and you're all welcome to drive here because that's not what this law means. I
Mhm.
can do that. I have the freedom to do that. Judaism gives you free will. But can I now turn around and say, this is what Judaism is? Who the hell am I? Who the hell am I to speak about a tribal law, a tribal stipulation, a tribal agreement as a sole figure, as a sole synagogue, as a sole community?
Right.
That's my issue. Not the fact that you've evolved it, not the fact that you're not religious. I'm not the most religious guy in the world. I acknowledge I'm breaking the law when I break the law. I don't have to say, it's okay, it's evolved. No, it didn't evolve because there was no
I'm the
authority that
same way.
evolved.
I'm the same way. I don't just say, "Oh yeah, it's evolved." I acknowledge, okay, I believe that I'm probably not doing it the way I should.
That's fine.
That's what.
And Bezat Hashem will get better. That's it.
And if I,
That's Jewish
to
life.
be honest, and if I choose to get to quote unquote get better or not, that's also my prerogative.
Absolutely.
That'll
But
be between me and the
but you're
Lord.
honest. You're
Yeah,
honest
yeah.
and
I follow Orthodox Judaism the way I feel I'm not Chabad, but I like the Chabad style. Uh, that's really it. I
yeah,
grew up religious. I grew up, just modern Orthodox, and I kept everything, and that's it. So we'll get back
yeah.
to it or we won't or whatever it is. It's fine.
Yeah, Bezat Hashem, whatever happens, Hashem wants to happen. But at the end of the day, I think to go back to the original point, because we brought up Top, and we did this event in San Francisco together. Great production company. Honestly, I'll give hats off to Danielle Shitrit from Malka Productions. She invited an All Mizrahi panel. And I said, I don't want to talk about All Mizrahi. I want to talk about Jewish voices. Stop calling me Jews of color have come to speak. I'm not a fucking Jew. I'm an original
Wait,
Jew.
is that what they called it? Is that how they
No,
labeled
no,
it?
no, no, no. They didn't.
Oh,
This is
okay.
my one little pet peeve that nobody has to follow. It
Okay,
means
okay,
nothing,
okay, okay,
right?
okay. Yeah.
Um, and so she didn't, and she had an unbelievable panel. It was me, it was Tal, it was Celine Rubin, who I just met really for the first time. She blew me away. Brilliant, brilliant young lady. Saying that makes me feel really old. Young lady. And and you had Matthew Nuriel as well. On the panel. Great guy.
I don't know.
Honest individual. Unbelievable. He's Iranian. Celine was
Okay.
Iranian. I was Syrian, and Tal was Iraqi. we were able to speak from
Celine is half Ashkenazi. Reuben, or is she married, or is she married and married as
Rubani,
Muslim?
maybe I'm mispronouncing her last name. I'm really bad.
Oh, okay.
I didn't really read it,
Maybe
although
it's like Ruben. It's probably like Reuven.
right.
Okay, whatever. I'm just
I,
no,
I
no, no.
think
I'm
I
just
believe
curious.
she was.
My brain
I have
is,
no
you know,
idea.
whatever.
I believe she was just Persian. I don't know
Okay,
that.
whatever. All right.
But it was an interesting panel, and I enjoyed it because we were able to explain. And I think Matthew Nuriel brought it up. He's like, look, the reason why Mizrahi voices get pushed to the side for so often is because they tend to sound more right wing than left wing. And there's reasons for that. The experience that we had in this country, the things that we're seeing in this country, and how both parties are responding to this danger, we're taking it more seriously. Not I don't want to say it in the wrong way, but we're taking it as firsthand. And so a lot of us are like, oh my God, this is number one biggest threat. The return of Islamism is back to kick us out. Just like if there was a rise in white supremacy, I mean, I'd be annoyed, I'd be very pissed off, I'd be scared, just like the Ashkenazi community is with this movement. But at the same time, I wouldn't fully appreciate it because I never lived under it.
That's a
I
great point, bro. That is an excellent
right.
point.
And so they're seeing, and so they're seeing the Mizrahi Jew take the right side because their fear is the Mizrahi Jew's fear is coming true. Guys, please shut off the music. Ralph, shut off the music, please.
Oh, you named him Ralph, dude. Good move. Good
Yeah,
idea.
Raphael, really.
There you go. All right.
But it's just that's what it is. And so I was trying to explain to the panel, and I think I did a good job at it. And I say this all the time, like it's not about Ashkenazi, it's not about Mizrahi. We're not having an inner fight here. I respect and I believe in both people, the Mizrahi community, the Ashkenazi community. But you have to understand something. When white supremacy, when neo Nazis were on a rise in this country, the Ashkenazi community got the appearances, they got the platform, and they deserved it. And they were the best tool in our Jewish tool shed to deal with that problem because they were able to bring on somebody who's a Holocaust survivor, and he's able to convey a message to an uninterested public with no attention span. They had a little bit longer of attention span back then, and explain this is what white supremacy caused. This is what Nazi ideology caused. And I am the evidence. I am the proof of it. This is direct attacking me. It made sense. It clicked in people's brains. As a litigator, if you have a good argument, if you have a winning argument, what you want to do is stipulate a lot of issues outside of court before you ever get to the jury. Why? Because you don't want to hit them with so many things. You want them thinking clearly on one issue. And that's why bringing the Ashkenazi voice, the Holocaust survivor, to fight white supremacist neo-Nazi anti-Semitism was largely successful. And hell, today, if you make a neo-Nazi symbol, people that may hate Israel will probably be scared to follow suit because they did such an amazing job really fighting back against this type of Jew hate. Now, we moved on to an evolved form of anti-Semitism. And maybe this is why Hashem put us together, to realize that we both serve a tool. Like sometimes I compare it to a toolbox. Judaism is a toolbox. Sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes you need a screwdriver. Doesn't mean you don't like your hammer or that you think your screwdriver is
So
less.
wait. So So what can you help me understand that a little bit better?
No. So now what I'm saying, so when white supremacy, when the problem was neo-Nazis, the big problem, you needed the Ashkenazi voice. Let's call them the screwdriver. Let's call them the hammer. It doesn't matter, right?
Oh yeah.
Now,
I'm joking.
now you need the Mizrahi voice. Why? Because
Screwdriver, you're saying.
the hammer, whatever you want to call it, right? But now the Mizrahi voice comes on camera, goes on
Yeah.
TV. But the problem is we didn't evolve to that. Today, they're still doing the same thing. You have a bold white dude, what appears to be a bold white dude. And again, I'm not discriminating against a person or hating on the person. This is all show. This is a propaganda game. And we better get good at presenting our arguments with the right messenger, the right message, the entire thing. But when they bring up Mr. Greenblatt, and I have nothing against the guy, but he fits the prototypical standard white American Ashkenazi Jew. And
Yes.
whenever he's talking about this issue, he's always taking it back to the Holocaust and trying to utilize the same strategy that they defeated white supremacist neo-Nazis with to defeat this new type of anti-Semitism. And it's going to fail because you're dealing with a different enemy. You can't say, well, look, the Holocaust happened, look how horrible it was, and now we needed a state. You're buying into their argument. Their entire argument is built off the anticipated argument that you're going to bring to the table, that we survived the Holocaust and we needed a safe place to live.
So true. It's so valid.
And so, how do you fucking fight this new version of anti-Semitism? The same way you fought the first version. You take a Mizrahi Jew, you take somebody that's Syrian, that's from Iraq, that's from Iran, and you put them in front of a mainstream camera on the news, on CNN. If ADL was smart enough, they would start. Listen, they didn't have one Mizrahi speaker at this conference. Yeah. They're out of their goddamn minds. Not one Mizrahi speaker, not like in an age where the anti-Semitism that we're facing, the Mizrahi community dealt with already.
Yeah, bro, it's gonna change. I'm
I don't know
you,
when it's gonna change. I'll be
listen,
honest.
First of all, I think you're not real. I think you're not realizing that it already is. First of all, you're making your waves. Tal just went on Roseanne Barr. Roseanne has a huge platform. Dude, first of all, I called it a while ago. Because Tal made a video of maybe 6 months ago bugging out about it, which was valid. He's like, nobody, people are giving money to all these random, Jewish guys and girls at these galas, and they don't even know much about the conflict. They don't know much about the war. And I commented on the video and I said, bro, your time is coming. I'm very, very certain of that. And not long after that, he started getting like, things started,
Right, but the mainstream organizations still haven't done it. Look, and I'm not shitting on them. Like, God forbid. At the end of the day, the ADL.
If we want to get anywhere, it's not a matter of like being equal. This isn't this kind of like let's still bring everyone involved. No, it's for us to be able to actually have, people who are either super anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, or people that don't really know what's going on. If we actually want Israel and our points to have any real weight, the Mizrahi Jewish voice needs to be heard more. It's not this thing of inclusivity where we should this is a very, very important thing.
It's one-on-one. It's right. It's like, hey, I dealt with Islamism. I dealt with this type of discrimination. This is what it led to. It's understandable to an average American. They don't have to go back to the time of you were like, stop trying, like the Ashkenazi community. Like I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Ashkenazi. I'm like, stop trying to prove to the Ashkenazi, to the outside world who hates you and doesn't want to even think you exist or you're alive, about that you came from Jerusalem, that you were, we were all kicked out in 70 AD, and that's why it's your ancestral homeland. You're not gonna. That's not the objective of the argument. It's right. Not about that you or me. It's about us. And for us to succeed, I don't need to go back to the time of I was expelled from Jerusalem in 70 AD. Right. I came from Syria in 1994. I can talk about it in the present. And so I can go against their propaganda very easily, much easier with less issues. And as a litigator, if you have the good case, less issues equals a winning hand. More issues, if I had a bad case, I want to throw 1,000 issues, confuse the shit out of the jury.
Super accurate. Yeah.
And so like the ADL, like, dude, I don't know. It's so disappointing because how do you not realize it? I want you to think about this, and I'm not bragging about myself, but like I have to go anyways in 10 minutes, but I want you to honestly think about this. I am the only, and correct me if I'm incorrect on this point, I am the only person advocating and speaking out for Jews and against Israel in the United States that was born in an Arab country and that speaks the Arabic language fluently. I don't know of another person.
In the United States.
Everywhere. In the United States. Yeah, obviously. In the United States. There's Iranian, yes. Persian, absolutely. There's a bunch.
I don't know if I can think. I mean, not that I know of. Not that I can think of. That's
exactly.
Actually not. Yeah.
And it didn't occur to the ADL. It didn't occur to the ADL to even give me a phone call. It didn't occur to the ADL, who wants to fight anti-Semitic Jew hate coming from the same form that led to our ethnic cleansing, to say, hey, how can you help us? How can we help spread your message? How can we spotlight you? Like it didn't occur to the UJA, it didn't occur to a host of these organizations. Now the UJA is different because they do a lot of good in community. So I don't think their main purpose is actually fighting anti-Semitism. But for instance, they have an entire Sephardic division. What have they done with the Sephardic division? Do you know? Because I do. I've asked somebody. I'm like, what do you do with the Sephardic division, the UJA? What have you produced? Oh, it's not something we produce. It's just a division to collect money from the Sephardic community. So they called it a Sephardic division. I'm not even shitting you, dude. We are so fucking sidelined and then told to shut up when we're speaking up and saying we are no longer accepting being sidelined. It's like, hey, you can't attack the AD. You can't attack them. I'm not attacking them. I'm speaking to them and I'm demanding my rightful place. I am demanding that our stories be heard. I'm demanding that our history gets a light shined on it. I'm demanding that we are fairly represented, all of the Mizrahi communities, in the media, in movies, etc., etc. When an anti-Semite, for instance, the ADL, when an anti-Semite goes and burns down, shits on Israel and says all the Israelis are whatever, and that person is a celebrity, where's the ADL automatically take them? To the Holocaust Museum. Why don't you take them to the Syrian Heritage Museum? Why don't you take them to a Sephardic museum so you can explain to them that the exact hate that they're supporting has already ethnically cleansed and murdered thousands of Jews, ethnically cleansed 1 million Jews? That's relevant. That's how you do it. But if you're relying and you're not trying to innovate and you're trying to be lazy and you're trying to just protect your positions on the boards or whatever, then of course you're not going to evolve. You'll evolve the Torah because 90% are reform on the ADL, but you won't evolve the way of your fighting anti-Semitism. And I know Greenblatt came on camera and said 100 cliches in one fucking video, like, we are doing things differently because you know what they say when people do the same thing over and over and it's not working, but they continue doing it. That's a definition of insanity. Like, bro, you stated 4 fucking cliches. You didn't give me one empirical data as to how you're changed. What have you done? Where is the diversity? They'll tell you, look at the diversity. We brought this Arab guy. He's Muslim and he's for Israel. Congratulations. Great. Where are the Mizrahi voices? You had a whole event in the city. Not one Mizrahi speaker, not one. Bullshit. But we can't speak out against it. So I'll tell you what.
You know what I would say? So,
I
AB,
do
you know
speak
what?
out.
Create your listen. First of all, you absolutely should be platformed on all these organizations, but also Mizrahi Jews should create their own organizations. Don't rely on these organizations that already exist necessarily. There's money in the Mizrahi community. Put
Yeah,
together
absolutely.
organizations. Put
Absolutely.
together.
Listen,
Create the platforms. You'll have plenty. Believe me.
there is an
I,
organization that
but don't wait.
deserves
Don't wait
that.
for it. Don't wait for them to bring you on board. Do it yourself.
No,
Bring.
yeah, if I waited for them, I wouldn't have done anything. The thing is,
Yeah.
I don't look at this as a mission. I do what I have to do because I believe I'm fighting for my children, for my family.
Right.
So I don't really give a shit if they like me, they hate me, they know me, they don't know me, they platform me, they don't platform me. I can get there myself. Nobody helped me get to the 70,000 whatever followers. I'll get to 1,000,000 myself. I don't need them. That's not the point. It's for the other Mizrahi members, the other Mizrahi Jews who are trying to have a voice. Celine, a brilliant attorney. Why does she have 26,000 followers? She should have over 100,000. What about Tal?
Right.
The guy travels everywhere. He shows he should have over 100,000. Yet the people that are, and we'll all get there on our own. I just want to give a shout out to one real organization. I don't know how you feel about them. I don't care. They're probably my favorite organization out there today, and that is the Jew Hate Database. They are the realest motherfuckers out there. And if anybody's watching this and you're wondering, well, who to support, where to give your money, direct all your goddamn money to them because they're human beings. They've spoken to me. They've spoken to others. They speak to everybody. They try. They are hand in hand. They're true grassroots organizations. They're innovative and they're not getting a shit ton of money because their narrative is more towards the Mizrahi narrative than it is towards the reform, liberal, progressive, Jewish fight, Jew hate narrative.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
I loved it. AB, I am glad you got to unload. I'll be real. Well, let's be quick with the exit so you can go about your business and
let's do it.
Okay. Are you gonna go outside on your lawn and just kind of like let loose whatever you didn't get to in the last hour and a half? Or you?
Nah, I'm going. We're going. My wife is waiting by the door. We have a barbecue at a friend's house.
Oh, nice man. By the way, I none of this teasing about you yelling. I love it about you. So by all means.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming, for getting this far to the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to your comments, whether you like us or not. Neither of us quite honestly give any sort of a shit. We hope you
I'm in.
we hope you do like us, but it doesn't make a difference. So leave your comments anyway. Make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, follow AB at Abraham Hamra on Instagram. You want to plug in any other social media?
I have Twitter now. I'm not really using it so much, but I'm getting there. So follow me too at Hamra Abraham. I had to reverse the name there.
Okay, got you. So you guys heard it here. Of course, real estate, reach out to me. Thank you, AB. Thank you for spending the time, man. You spent it was almost an hour and a half.
I hope I made it fun for you.
It was great. It was
Grand
great.
Mufti lovely, yeah. I thought
Absolutely. Enjoy the barbecue, my friend.
Excellent.